There's been a question that keeps popping up, and so I just wanted to answer it really quickly. After Darcy and I posted the video about how to significantly scale back Christmas gifts, so many of you said, we want to do that, but how do we go from having tons of gifts at Christmas to very few? Especially Santa's been coming to your house, and the kids know that if they're good, they get presents. Santa would never want them to think they weren't good this year just because they aren't getting as many presents. So it might seem simple at first, but it's actually a little more involved. So let's talk a little bit more about that coming up next. Well, hi, I'm Dawn from The Minimal Mom, and thank you to everyone who's been following along with our Christmas series and the videos that I got to do with Darcy. It was so much fun getting to collaborate with her, and we actually have one more video coming out tomorrow, so I'm excited to share that with you as well. But the video where we talked about how to really significantly cut back on gift giving, it was really popular, but there's been quite a few questions afterwards of how do we go from giving lots of gifts at Christmas, especially, you know, if Santa normally brings lots of gifts and the kids know that if they're good, they get gifts, to really significantly scaling it back. So really great question. Totally understand where you're coming from. Tom and I were actually in that same boat ourselves. So at our house, Santa would bring one big gift on Christmas morning, and then the rest we just kind of relied on friends and family. My parents are really generous with Christmas gifts, so we never felt like we've had to do more than that because the kids get plenty of gifts from the rest of our family, which is really nice of them. So this year specifically, Tom and I have been talking about like what we're gonna ask Santa to do, because we don't want any more big gifts. But I also wanted to share a really cool email that I got from Lisa, and she said that both her and her husband worked corporate jobs, so it was never an issue of being able to afford the Christmas gifts, but that one year her 8-year-old said that another friend at school, their family was deciding to not get gifts that year so that they could help another family in need. And so she said her daughter came home and proposed this idea that they cut back on their Christmas gifts so that they too could help another family out. And she said it really challenged her, but she said not for the reasons you would think. She said what she realized was that her and her husband had in a way been buying gifts for the kids to make up for the time that they didn't get to spend for them. And she said the other thing was that the area they lived in, they didn't want their kids to go to school and see that their friends had gotten all kinds of new cool gifts and tech gifts and new clothes and all that after the Christmas break, and then they wouldn't have anything to show. And so she said, here is my daughter being so kind-hearted and generous, and all I can think is, well, what are other people gonna think? And so she said she was talking with her sister about it, and her sister fell into another camp of buying gifts they couldn't afford just because they thought that's what Christmas was about, and they didn't want their kids to think that they weren't good, because she said their kids were awesome, they loved them, and they really wanted them to feel special at Christmas. And so I think probably most of us can relate to one of those two stories. I mean, as parents, we would do anything for our kids, right? We would go into debt for them. We would, you know, we'd like to give them the things that they want, the desires of their heart. And so what was fun though is that Lisa went on to say that they decided to, you know, scale back their Christmas gifts and to help another family out. And she said she just absolutely couldn't believe what a wonderful Christmas it was. She said she wasn't sure if their 6-year-old son would understand what was going on, but she said he totally got it. And she said, hands down, it was their best Christmas yet. That was 2 years ago, and now they've been doing it ever since. And so I think that's so cool to hear. And then she said her sister, so they decided to scale back together. And so what her sister did then was ask the kids, okay, I talked to Santa, we're not gonna be getting as many gifts this year, but what we wanted to know is, what do you want Christmas Day to look like? What could we do together as a family instead of getting gifts? And so she said that her son wanted to play PlayStation with her husband, and her daughter wanted to bake Christmas cookies. And she said that's what we did. And she said it was so much fun. And that was 2 years ago as well. And she said it just helped her to realize that the gifts, you know, they're a part of Christmas. They're not bad, but she said she just felt like they got it back in balance, and it was their best Christmas yet, and now that's what they've been doing ever since. So I know it can be difficult, because we wouldn't ever want our kids to think that they're not good, or, you know, or they're not worthy or anything like that. So here's one other thing that I'll just mention too, and then we'll talk about a couple other ways to actually facilitate transitioning the process. But my background is marketing. That's what I went to school for. My dream job, what I figured after college, what I really wanted to do was to work for a big ad company and come up with clever marketing campaigns. So basically I just wanted to figure out ways to get people to spend their money on the products that, you know, I was helping to advertise, and I think that would have just been so much fun. And so what's funny is now I'm on like the other side of it, right? Being like, don't like stay away from marketing. Like marketers are so brilliant. Like they're so good at their jobs, and they are so good at getting you to spend money, and they're so good at painting the picture of what Christmas morning should look like, with tons of, you know, beautifully wrapped presents under the tree, and the kids, you know, coming down from upstairs, you know, down the pretty staircase with the nice banister with the stockings hung on it, and they see the tree and their eyes light up, and then they go and they start opening them and they're so excited. And so that's what really been led to believe that that's what Christmas should look like, and that's what a good Christmas looks like, and that makes our kids happy. But I think, you know, like Lisa and her sister said, and certainly what we've experienced, what talking to Darci's kids, what they've experienced, it's that presents are great. Presents are a nice token of our appreciation for each other, but they're not everything. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, your kids just want to spend time with you. So I think it just takes a little retraining of our brain that the presents aren't the main event at Christmas. And if we spend time with our kids, they'll get that same sense of joy. So what's interesting is when you know, open a present, why is it so exciting? Because we get in our brain, we get a little shot of dopamine, right? It's a feel-good chemical. And when we open a present, when we buy the present, when we find a present for someone, we're like, oh, they're gonna love this, we get that same reaction. It's also, you know, when we see that we posted something on Facebook and a bunch of people liked it, then we get that same feeling. And so my fear is that when we look at the big picture, what we're training our kids is that, you know, buying things is a way to get that rush. You know, posting things on social media is another way. And so again, that's not bad, it is what it is, but there's other ways to get that same rush on Christmas Day, like baking cookies together and having fun as a family, playing a game. Like when you win a game, you get that same rush. You get that same rush when somebody smiles at you, when you feel like someone is genuinely happy to see you. Like if I smiled at you right now and said, I am so glad you're here right now. I wish you were sitting right next to me and that we were having a cup of coffee together talking about Christmas presents. We get that same rush. You know, and Darci talked about their family will cook a big meal together. Eating good food can give us that rush. Getting a hug from someone. And so it was so fun to hear Darci talk about how they cook a big meal on Christmas and everyone's home and they eat it together and they play games together. And so we can create a meaningful Christmas with or without presents. I'm fully convinced of that, and I wouldn't tell you that if I didn't truly believe it. So really quickly then, a couple ways to go from, you know, lots of gifts to not as many. Again, talk to your family. If you think sponsoring another family would be something they're interested in, that would be awesome. If you're like, we need to get our debt paid off, then just ask your kids, what would you like to do on Christmas? If Christmas Day was your day and we could do whatever you wanted, or Christmas Eve, you know, maybe you have family things on Christmas Day, but whatever day it is, we could do whatever you wanted. What would that day look like for you? Would you want to go sledding? Would you want to play games? Would you want to have another family over? What would your Christmas Day look like if you got to design it? Or I love the idea too of having the list of something you need, something to read, something to wear. You know, there's lots of different printable lists like that out there. I'll put a blog post down below with links to those printables. And that's really nice because it just kind of frames it for your kids. And I've heard so many moms say that that's what they do in their family, and it's so effective. So I know in our head we think, oh my goodness, our kids are not gonna like this, and we kind of run all the worst case scenarios. But I want to encourage you that if it's on your heart to scale back Christmas this year, let's just find a way to do it. Let's go all in with it, and I think you'll find that it truly is one of your best Christmases yet. So I'm gonna link to all those resources down below. I would love to hear if you've scaled it back at your house, especially if you've had older kids, because that seems to be the biggest concern. If they're, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's where we've already built a history of a lot of gifts and then have to scale it back. So I'd love to hear your stories about how you've done it, or if you have any more questions in this area, please leave it down below. I love bouncing ideas with you. And so I truly hope this helps. I hope you have a really awesome Christmas. Thank you for watching our Christmas series. As always, the best compliment you can give us is a thumbs up. Like I said, I'll link to that next video with Darci down below. It's frequently asked questions, so we had a lot of fun with that. So you can see that there. Merry Christmas, all of our best to you, and I look forward to visiting with you down in the comments. Are you showing the necklace you made for Nana? Yeah. Nana, I hope you're not watching this so you don't ruin the surprise.